If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I'm back with my second album review of the weekend, as I am talking about another underground one that I had my eye on as soon as I was looking at release dates coming out on Metal Archives, and, well, I enjoyed this band's last EP that came out in 2019, and when I saw that they got a new studio album on the way, I was excited. I am talking about the sophomore effort from Jacksonville, Florida thrash metal band Rhythm of Fear, and the album is called Fatal Horizons. So, of course, Rhythm of Fear is a thrash metal band slash crossover thrash band from Jacksonville, Florida that formed back in 2010, and they're an interesting band because they got a couple of members who are actually live members of the classic New York hardcore slash thrash metal band Leeway, or now known as Leeway NYC. So you're gonna get a little bit of that crossover influence coming out of that, but also some other crossover bands I think come to mind in this band's sound. Bands like Power Trip and Cro-Mags immediately spring up to mind. But whenever I listen to this band's EP that came out in 2019, Ritual Dementia, man, it's like that EP just had so much going on in terms of riffs, brutality, and just insanity, and with a feeling of evil. And I think that evil vibe definitely comes from, say, their influence of Slayer, because after all, there's a ton of Slayer that's laced within the vibe and the tone of what Rhythm of Fear does, and especially on this album, since it's a full length, and it's a long album for a crossover band. It's almost 50 minutes long, so there's 13 tracks to kind of digest. But pretty much the first thing right out of the gate, or actually a couple of phrases to describe this album. 1, Riff City. 2, it's fucking pissed off. And 3, it's a mindfuck. It really is a mindfuck, especially with the whole concept that this album has, all about, like, technology-induced chaos, and, like, the human body, and a bunch of other things that they're talking about lyrically on this album. Now, in terms of songwriting, like I said, there's that tone and the vibes of Slayer pretty much laced all throughout this album. But in terms of, say, the riff writing, and I don't know if I reviewed that EP that came out in 2019. I thought I did, but in case I didn't, listening to that EP when it came out and then onto this album, there is so much Metallica all over this album in terms of the riffs. And I'm talking like Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets era Metallica. Like the Cliff Burton era of Metallica. I just hear so many of those riffs kind of laced throughout this whole album. There's just so much in way of Metallica riffing, but there's also some riffing that kind of would remind me of Testament a little bit. Like, I do think there's a good sprinkle of Testament kind of thrown throughout this album in terms of the riffs. Even a little bit. Now, in terms of the vocals kind of remind me of the band Forced Entry, which I know not a lot of people know about that band, but they were a great underrated thrash band that formed back in the 80s out of Seattle. And the vocal style is kind of like that middle ground between melodic and punky. That's kind of the vocal approach I get from the vocalist Jay Santiago. And drum performance-wise, like pretty much all throughout this album, it's meat and potatoes, thrashy, even a lot of hardcore going on in here. There's some D-beat stomps that you get here and there, but particularly the beginning of the closing track, Ceremony of Sacrifice, you get like this cool tribal beat that starts to track off very, very well, and it created a really different mood compared to most of the songs on the album. Other tracks I want to kind of touch on, the track Insidious System. It's a thrasher song, however, I will say, lyrically, I can tell that song, if people were to read the lyrics, probably will be politically divisive amongst a lot of people because it's basically all about police brutality. And I typically don't talk politics on this channel because to me politics are fucking stupid, but I'll just say where I stand on all that. Yes, there are bad cops out there, but to say that all cops are bad just because of actions of a couple cops doesn't mean every police officer in the country is terrible. There are great cops out there that do care about people. I'm just going to leave it at that, and I digress a lot. But yeah, the song itself, it's thrashy, even though lyrically it's probably going to divide a lot of people, but it's just the way it is. It's crossover, so you're bound to get something like that pretty much here and there. But that was like one of the few tracks on the album that kind of had that like politically charged vibe, whereas pretty much most of the other albums dealing with like aliens, conspiracy, the occult, esoteric stuff, and magical things. So they're all over the place in terms of the lyrics. I will say, actually, the track Tears of Ecstasy, while that's a barn burner of a track, watching the music video, it almost came off like a gory BDSM video, which was very, very weird, but really cool, in all honesty. And for those who haven't seen the video, check it out. There are some sexy nails on a chick in that video, which is pretty cool. But aside from that, the song itself is kick-ass. And actually, they're really showcasing songwriting chops. Like, they're writing, typically with a crossover band, even though I consider this band to be more thrash metal than crossover thrash, but they have that kind of crossover spirit. Typically, for a crossover band, they don't write songs longer than maybe 3 to 4 minutes. This album has, let me count here, 4 tracks that exceed 5 minutes, and then like 3 or 4 others at the 4-minute mark, and a bunch in the 3-minute mark, close to 4 minutes. Now, the shortest track of the album that feels like a full song, Oath and Hell, excuse me, is under 2 minutes, but it is a brutal slab of hardcore punk insanity. Like, it's just brutal with that, like, punky vibe, especially in the riffs. Like, these riffs definitely felt like something you would have heard from, like, early DRI or early Suicidal Tendencies. Pretty much anything in that, like, early like, Southern California hardcore skate punk sound you're going to get on that track. And of course, this album does not shy away from groove and breakdowns, like, especially in Ceremony of Sacrifice, you get this, like, real brutal stomp going on throughout the end of the track. And like I said, breakdowns all over this album, and they're done very well. They don't feel generic or repetitive, and they were pretty badass. So those are all the positives I have. The negatives, really, the only negative I really have is that there are 3 tracks on this album: Disintegration of Reality, Atrocities Beyond the Structures of the Mind, and Disillusion of Time and Space. They were just soundscape tracks that honestly didn't need to be on here, at least in my opinion. It's a personal thing. It's just sometimes when bands do that too much, it drives me insane, unless it's done very well. And for me, it didn't really need to be on here, those tracks, and I think it would have helped trim the fat down on the album a little bit and make it a solid 10-track affair instead of 13, but I digress. But overall, this has, again, been a hell of a year for thrash, whether it's traditional thrash, death thrash, blackened thrash, crossover, what have you. This is another killer presentation. I'm giving this a 9.5 out of 10. Rhythm of Fear, definitely, I feel like if they can get some more momentum on the heels of this album, I can see this band breaking out into a similar vein of a band like Power Trip, for example. But we'll see how that happens. But kudos to Rhythm of Fear for putting out yet another killer album, or a killer release in the case of that EP that I talked about. And upstairs, well, yeah, shut up. But anyways, that's just my opinion. What did you guys think of Fatal Horizons by Rhythm of Fear? Let me know in the comments section below. And until next time, horns high. See you guys later. Well, after we got done eating, we're on our car ride. Look at this fucking shit.
Look at this bus. Where are you going, sir? I rode the bus here when I was little, and the bus route doesn't even go up this road. It's supposed to go around. What are you doing, sir? Big doors, small doors. You want to buy a door? We'll sell you a door. We only sell doors. We're Door Incorporated. We only sell doors. What the fuck is my life come to? I'm never gonna live it down because Johnny Benson has ruined me. Financially, mentally, physically. Johnny Benson, dude. If you're out there, Johnny, this one's for you.